Hello, and you're watching The Breakdown, ThePapare.com's weekly segment where we bring you everything that is rugby in Sri Lanka. And after 11 weeks of accelerating rugby and mouth-watering clashes, we've had a finish to the Single Schools League. Shanaka, what a week that was.
It was, and what a finish it was as well. Just one score in it between the top two teams, well, the top and the third place team now. But it was an outstanding Rugby first leg. It was an outstanding league decider. Sudarshana, and congratulations to Royal for what was a really well-paced season, I thought.
Absolutely. Let's come to the first leg of the Rugby, but first up, St. Thomas's finally managed to get their hands on a trophy, but sadly they had to share it with St. Peter's.
Well, they managed to retain it. I think that's the word that the Omians are likely to use. But it was a good 25-all draw. It was not mouth-watering stuff, but it was nail-biting stuff. And the two are a little bit different, Sudarshana, because I don't think either team played really good rugby, but it was good to see that it was a closely contested game. And nice to see Shanaka and Sudarshana getting on the scoreboard again. He's been largely quiet this season after a wonderful season last year, but it just goes to show that however good your wingers are, if your forwards are not doing the job up front, that you can have the best guy in the world, like even Yusran Lantra, who was very good in the opening part of the season, but when his forwards were falling away a little bit up front, you're not going to get to use those back. So it's highlighted what an important, and the league win also has highlighted what an important facet of play that is.
Absolutely, and for St. Peter's, they will take a lot of heart because they played without their key man, Steven Sivaraj, due to injury, but they managed to keep their calm, although St. Thomas's were staging a comeback in the second half to contain them and make sure that they end up with equal points.
Yeah, I think they did well. I think they've learned from their mistakes over the course of the last maybe 3 or 4 games. St. Peter's against Royal, I think they probably hit the low point of their season, and then they've been coming up ever since then. So well done to them as well. I think they could have let that game get away from them because it was quite close at half time as well. But as a result of that, I think St. Thomas's have shown that they're not a team that the scoreboard has adequately reflected. They're a team that has played better than their results have shown, and St. Peter's have probably been the team to provide us the most 2 important results, beating Isipatana and beating Trinity. So they can go away with that satisfaction in this season as well.
Absolutely. And moving on to the next game, we had St. Joseph's taking on Zahira College. Zahira College turned a lot of heads in the first round, but we spoke about this. It's the depth that comes into play when it comes to the second round. Meeting these tough teams week in, week out, it takes a toll on you. And St. Joseph's, they've been developing their season very well, and 38 points to a 14 comfortable win for the Josephians.
Yeah, it was a comfortable win for them in the end. They're a big forward pack, Sudarshana, and they take a lot of bringing down. So they're going to really damage those people up front, especially the smaller teams, and that's exactly what Zahira was. They're feeling the fatigue, they're feeling the difficulty of playing in the A division at this point of the season, and coming up against a team like St. Joseph's who revel in that kind of physicality, that's always going to be hard for them. But they still managed to score 2 tries in the second half, and I think they will take heart from that. They're guaranteed A division rugby next year, so Coach Nawaz has maybe a year to prepare from now. So he's got to look at recruitment, he's got to look at how he's going to get what has been a team mainly known for their football in the recent past, how he's going to convert them into rugby players. So that's going to be an interesting challenge for them as well. But St. Joseph's finishing 5th, I think maybe a couple of places lower than they would have expected, but they took a little time to get going. So now that they have got going, maybe the knockouts will be their target.
Absolutely. And let's move on to the next game. Isipatana College taking on Wesley College. This was going to be the clash that would possibly decide the second place of the league. Isipatana College 28 points to 0. Wesley have slumped since their defeat to Royal College.
They have, and I think going into this game, everybody thought this was the 3rd place clash, but no, in fact, it was actually could have been the 2nd place clash as well. So Isipatana 28, Wesley 0 was not a scoreline I expected. Sudarshan, I expected Wesley to be able to score some tries, but they went into this game without Avantha Lee, who is their real game breaker at number 13, and they went in without their captain, Dennis Tagunithilaka, as well, and they lost probably their best player on the park on the day, that was Dayan Sabah. They lost him early on in the second half as well. So once he went off, they lost that real threat. And the game really changed on its head when Chamod Fernando came in. They were Wesley were pounding the Isipatana line, and Isipatana looked under real pressure for the first 25 minutes of the game. Then under the post, the coaching staff made a decision, okay, let's send him on, and Chamod comes on with a heavily strapped hamstring. And from that 25th minute onwards, it was all Isipatana. There was no turning back. So he kicked the first penalty that they got just before halftime, created the try on the left flank. Sumudu Rankodge scored it on the right flank. And this guy, when he comes on, he just completely changes the team.
It's absolutely beautiful to see the X factor this guy brings into the team. I believe Shanaka from last year, what Kushan had for Isipatana, Chamod had been doing it for Isipatana this season.
Well, Kushan was a little bit difficult. Kushan Indranil, last year's captain, he played at number 12, and what he did was he kind of drew everybody in. He was like the rock, and he was a Tana Umaga type of player who would just do the basics really well, and that's why Rankodge performed so well and scored so many tries. This year, Rankodge had to have performed a little bit more of that role. So while defenses are focusing on him, Chamod can run off, and I thought Chamod has risen to the occasion and played at fullback from last year's wing position much better than he did at the start of the season. He came into his own, and he has been fabulous for Isipatana. But spare a thought for Wesley. I thought they lost their game breakers. If Avantali had played that game, might have been a little bit more different.
It would have been definitely more competitive if Avantali and also maybe Dennis Tagunathaleka played at the fly-out position. But Avish Kali tried hard. It wasn't too easy for him because he had taken on that leadership role as well. So all credit to Wesley. They've done very well this season, and they were in it until the penultimate week of the league. They were in it for the league title run. So it's important for Wesley to continue this momentum.
It is. After a disastrous start, 64-10 against Trinity, I don't think anyone expected that. But they've recuperated well, and they've come back, and they were in it, like you said, until the second last week. So I think that's a good sign for them. If they can get over those injuries in time for the knockouts, who knows?
So there you go, and that brings us to the final game, and what a game it was up in Palikale. Trinity College, they had the league in their home grounds. They had the league just up at the tunnel. All they had to do was make sure that they take it inside the dressing room. Then they failed doing that.
They failed, I think, largely because Royal dealt with the pressure better, Sudarshan. And I don't think that it's about dealing with the pressure well during the 80 minutes. It's not only that. It's about dealing with the pressure of the preparation week. And I think that's what Royal probably did better. They understood their roles. Each player knew what they were supposed to do. They knew what Trinity was going to throw at them. And they managed to counter that. And I thought Trinity's game plan, when you're playing a team like Royal, probably played a little bit into their hands. And that was something that possibly could be looked at a little bit more. If I was coaching Trinity, I was telling this to our good mate Dinuk the last week as well, you've got to kick. You've got to kick over the Royal forwards' heads. You've got to turn them around. You've got to turn that big midfield around as well. And if you don't do that, you can't play Royal. And that's what I thought Trinity missed a trick in. But Royal held their own, even when it was just one score and Trinity were throwing everything at them. They trusted their defense, which has worked for them all season. And I thought that was a very proficient, clinical performance by a good Royal team.
Adding to what you said, Shanaka, yes, whenever Trinity used their wider channels, as we saw in the opening score of the game, they managed to break the Royal defense. But what Trinity were guilty of, I believe, was they were using those closer channels way too often, and the Royal defense, like you said, had come through and had come good for them throughout the season. Yes, we had St. Anthony's scoring more tries with them, but Royal, defensive-wise, when it comes to the second round, they were on spot.
Yeah, they were completely on the mark, Sudarshan, and it seemed like this Trinity were ironically playing like Royal played in the first half of the season, just going for their hits, and then not having the option of working it wide. So as you said, when they worked it wide in the first couple of minutes, it was an easy try that they scored. It was a nice try to watch as well, and somehow, I don't know why they didn't go back to that. And they just kept hitting up the middle, and they didn't seem to be having the confidence to work it wide from there. So that was, I thought, where they missed a trick. I thought they lost this game more than anything else. They lost it on the drawing board rather than on the playing field. And that's something that they probably need to look at. Also, I thought if you're playing Royal with that attacking maul that they have, which they scored a couple of tries off again this time. I think if you manage to stop the maul, you need to be rewarded for it. And they stopped it a few times and didn't get rewarded for it. And that's something that they've got to look at. Do they adopt another tactic if they play Royal again in the knockout final, perhaps, or something like that?
Second leg of the Bradby that is going to be.
That's second leg of the Bradby as well. Sorry, I completely forgotten about that. But if they're playing that, they need to say, okay, we're pushing this forward pack backwards, we're pushing it sideways, and we're not getting what we should be getting from that. So what do we do next? Do we disengage? What do we do?
There were a lot of people who asked me, Shanaka, what did Trinity do wrong? And all I had to tell them was, one, there were decision-making errors up in the field. But for what I thought, Royal College defended like Trinity did against Isipatana, and that's why they ended up winning.
Absolutely, and I thought Trinity were a little bit guilty of looking for the contact. It's a big game, so the hype is up, 30 years, no title, blah, 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 all that stuff is working in these young players' heads. And these are 17, 18-year-old kids, Sudarshana. So when all that is there, all that testosterone, all it tells you to do is when you see the guy in that blue and yellow jersey,
go smash.
Absolutely, it's just go smash. And if you smash into Royal, they love it. They absolutely love it. They revel in the smashing. So they will smash you right back. And that's exactly what happened to Trinity. So they have some good runners. They have guys with skill, guys like Boyagoda, guys like Dange, even Warren Virakon is a subtle player. He's not Tuleib Hassan. Tuleib Hassan is a strong, direct ball carrier. Warren Virakon's got a bit more to his game than that. So why did Trinity get encaptured in playing the same game that Royal wanted them to play? That's something they need to ask themselves. But Royal, I thought, in terms of strength, absorbing pressure, in terms of preparation, I thought they were ahead and deserved to win the game.
So the final scoreline said 22 points to 17, 5-point margin. Do you think this is enough for Royal to defend the Bradby?
I think there's going to be a comeback. I think it's going to be really close. I'd be really surprised if we have another draw like we did last year. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility. It would be a strange coincidence, but it's possible. But I think Trinity are going to come back. I think Trinity would probably have looked at this game and seen what they did, and there were very fixable issues there. They're going to have to fix their scrum. They were going backwards at a rate of knots, and that big pack, that's embarrassing, Sudarshana. And you're going to have 5 guys who are going to be watching that video and thinking, we're not going to let that happen to us next week. So I think Royal may have left a bit on the park. I think emotionally have reached a peak now, and Trinity have a lot to play for. They have more to play for than Royal do, because Royal already have a league in their back pockets. So I think there's going to be a comeback.
Interesting, because soon after the victory, Ovenaski speaking to us said, we are really glad we worked really hard to win this league, but what's more important is the Bradby second leg and Bradby Shield. So Royal, yes, they will be emotionally at that high point, but they will be focused because they wouldn't want Trinity to do the same thing that they did to Trinity back in Pallekele coming to Royal Complex.
Well, you never know. Nobody wants it. Everybody obviously wants to win the Bradby. But for me as a neutral, I would love to see a close game. I would love to see one of those nail-biting finishes on aggregate, or whether it's on the day or what. It would be fantastic to see.
Coming up, Shanaka, the draw for the Milo knockouts have been announced. 2 teams from the plate segment have been promoted to the top division. St. Thomas and Zahira missing out, unfortunately. First quarter final, Royal College taking on Dharmaraj. Then for the second quarter final, we have Isipatana taking on St. Anthony's. Third quarter final, Trinity meeting their first round nemesis of St. Peter's. And fourth quarter final, Wesley College taking on St. Joseph's. We have some interesting clashes.
Oh yeah, some absolutely interesting clashes. And Royal played Dharmaraja in the first round as well. It wasn't as easy as they would have wanted it to be.
13 points to 15 was the score.
Exactly. So I think that's going to be another interesting match. But I think Royal have just improved too much. It might be just a bit beyond Dharmaraja this time around. So that's the difference between Royal now and Royal then. It was a 15-13 match against Dharmaraja, but now they are way ahead of what they were at that point in the league. Isipatana playing St. Anthony's should be an interesting game, because St. Anthony's come there with nothing to lose, and if they get it right tactically, they could put a little bit of pressure Isipathana. So let's wait and see how that turns. But again, I think Isipathana just have maybe a little bit too much quality for them. But with those big boys that the Antonians have, who knows? And then we have Trinity playing St. Peter's. Again, I think Trinity are not going to let this happen to them twice in a row. I think they're going to properly go out and thump St. Peter's. That's going to be their intention, and they probably will be able to achieve it as well. The biggest match on the cards for me is Wesley versus St. Joseph's. What an outstanding, mouth-watering clash that is going to be. Two big teams coming together. Hopefully, if Wesley have their injuries in order, it will be an outstanding game of rugby.
Last time these two teams met, Wesley got the better of St. Joseph's. But again, like you spoke about Royal, Josephs weren't at that high point, but they've improved since. So we have some really interesting rugby coming our way come the knockouts, and before that, of course, the second leg of the rugby is going to happen not this weekend, next weekend. That's on the 3rd of June. But before we go, last time around, the question that we asked was, who do you fancy to win the league title? Shanaka parted with Royal College. I, of course, did part with Trinity College. Shanaka turned out as the man who came out on top, and
I sound surprised, Sebastian.
And I, of course, did have quite a few people, royalists, coming to me and telling me we were quite surprised that Shanaka parted with us.
Well, I think the Royalists have got it wrong. They think I'm going to side against them every time. But, you know, if the rugby team is good, the rugby team is good. There's nothing else to say about it.
So there you go. And this time around, we have some good homework for you. The next week when we speak to you, we wouldn't have matches to speak about. So what we are going to do is we are going to decide on who the team of the season will be. So 15 men who deserve to be in that position. What we need you to do is comment below this link and tell us who your team of the season is, so that we will take an idea of that as well. Shanaka, what are your thoughts? It's going to be a very difficult task, Shanaka. Sometimes some positions we have about 5-6 contenders putting their hands up, and sometimes marginally small stuff differentiating them. It's going to be a difficult one.
Oh, absolutely, it's going to be a difficult one. I can even only now begin to imagine the arguments I'm going to have with you, that I'm going to have with Sabir, with Inshaf, and all these guys who are going to be working on the team, especially with regard to one position, which is scrum half.
Absolutely.
You know, and we've got Boyegada, we've got Bandara, we've got Lee, we've got so many people on that park.
And don't forget Ravin Fernando from St.
Peters as well. Yeah, so we've already started the argument, so we're curious to see what you guys have to say as well. And if it's going to be a rugby fan commenting, that would be great, rather than just one school fan, because you're going to be picking everybody from your own school. But go back, look at the season, think of the players from the other teams as well, and let's see what you've got to say, and we'll see how it matches with ours.
So there you go. There is a challenge for you and some homework to be done. And that's it from us on the breakdown for today. And until next week, I'm Sudarshana signing off alongside Shanaka. Have a brilliant week.